We are recording. Okay, so let me show you. Let me share this screen here. All right, so if you look out at the bottom of week 1, you'll see acquire an image with Geiger or Giemiger. I've seen it pronounced many different ways. And there's literally a whole bunch of things here, but because it did not come out until today, and I'm going to walk you through how to do all this. It's not due until Tuesday. So in order to get the tools for this, I put them all out there under, you go under additional resources, forensic tools. This is a link to the Kane ISO. There's a little folder here that talks about different imaging stuff that you can do with this. There's also a couple of tools that I threw out here. This is FTK Imager Lite, which is also a really good tool. That's for Windows. There's a user guide for that. And there's WinAudit. I will throw some other tools out here. Sorry about that. As we go along, basically, if there's anything that I want you guys to use in a lab, I will either put a link to it or I will make it there so you can download it. So I will show you one, but I'm not linking to it on Blackboard. It had some really interesting links in it. They had, it's called Nearsoft, NIRSOFT.net. I will say they have a lot of really neat things in here, but this also falls under the header of use them for good, not for evil, because there are some things you could get into some problems with in here. But they have some password recovery utilities. They have some network monitoring tools like sniffing tools. There's actually a one that I thought was really cool. They have a Bluetooth sniffing one out there. Some command line utilities. I actually came out here because I was looking at their, what was it that I was looking for? I can't remember which one it was, but there was one of these that I was looking at because they have one of them on the Kane thing in there. But you'll see there's some desktop utilities here. And there's some really good ones under system tools there. I thought this one's actually a nice little one. It's called Blue Screen View. You can look at your crash information for stuff that's in your mini dump files for BSODs, for blue screens and Windows. So that's always a really good one. So Nearsoft is NIRSOFT.net. So take a look at some of their stuff. It's a nice little collection of tools. Some of them are old, but some of them are not. So some of them you can just mess with and play with and have some fun. Okay, so Kane 13, when I was playing around with it, did a let me stop share here. I did let me get to my desktop. Get all the things open. What do you call it? My brain is blanking on what it's called. It's on the assignment. VirtualBox. I always say the wrong thing on that one. So anyway, I used VirtualBox when I did this to set it up. So you download your Kane ISO, put it somewhere, and then I have a link for VirtualBox. Some of you already have that out there. I suggest that you pick something that's really small. I did a 4 gig USB drive, but it still took about 15-20 minutes to pull. Like I just threw some random stuff into it just so I could take this little screenshot and show you what that looked like. So Let me open up VirtualBox. I will tell you in VirtualBox, you need to, when you create Cane, I put it on 4 processors, and I gave mine about 12 gigs of RAM, just in case. You don't have to go that high, but I wasn't altogether sure what all we had on there. So that's what I did. Also, when you create it, make sure in your settings, let me share this screen with you. If you're going to be doing a capture of a, okay, can you see the settings one? Sometimes it doesn't show those. You should see a Cane 1 settings. Can you guys see that screen? Yeah, thank you. You want to make sure you see where I have USB 2. I have a general disk. That is not there normally. You're going to need to click this little thing over here, click add, and then just, is it settings? Basically, I just added a new one, and then I don't want that. I told it that it could do a general one, and it just took the default, and that allowed it, when I booted it up, it allowed it to see my nifty little thumb drive, which is just, as you can see, it's just a generic cheapo 4 gig thumb drive. I threw a couple images and things on there on it so that it could see it. So right here, you can see my system settings. You can see what I've got there. And then under processors, this is just everything that's on there. So when you create a new one of these, you just name it whatever you want to name it. Go out and find your Cane, wherever you've got your Cane selected, and then change everything that you want to do here. And then everything else I left this at 25 gig. And then I hit finish. So that's how I did mine. Okay. So, and there are ways that you can do these for a more quote unquote permanent one, but I've just left it on the on the live distribution, which means every time you start it up, it will ask for, sometimes you'll get an error that says, I can't find the startup media, and then you just have to point it to being able to see that. So let me stop sharing here, and I'll switch it over to the Cane window. Failed to boot. There you go. There's mount and retry. Okay. And then it just chugs along. And you just want the Cane live right there on the top. Every time that we tried to run this and do the more advanced, where you do like the full installation, and when I did it last semester, we get partway through and several people's installations actually would eat themselves. Ask Zach, he was there, and it was just random. I even had 2 different ones, and one worked fine. And then partway through, the other one just kind of ate itself, and I had to delete and retry everything. So that's why we're going to stick with the live version, so we don't have to spend tons of time running command lines and then try to scream and throw things out. Yeah. So it'll take a second here. And the one that we used last time, I think, was distribution 11. So this one actually seems to be a little more stable. Yeah, you can use Kali for a lot of stuff, but there's some tools on here that aren't on Kali. There's a lot of different tools that you can. Part of the reason I'd use this, I'm not saying you have to use Cane. You don't have to use Cane. If you can get Geiger or Giemiger and load it to Kali or pair it, you can use whatever version of Linux you want. This version of Cane, they actually built off of Ubuntu. So I'm hoping that it means it's actually going to be a little more stable for us. Yeah, now the previous one wasn't built off of Ubuntu. I'm not quite sure what they built it off of. I want to say a pile of crap because that's what it was like using. And it takes a second for it to boot up. But the nice thing is all the tools that we want to use are actually on the desktop. There it is. And if you suddenly lose me, I hope you don't. My computer randomly has been having some issues. NVIDIA's newest driver, apparently it is not particularly fond of. So there have been a couple of times that has B-sodded out on me and given me the finger. So no, there's something with the new driver. Like there's one of my video games just does not like it. And it took me a little while because I had to dig through the B-sod files and I don't send. And it freaked out. Yeah, that was the problem with Cane, that version of Cane. Yeah, it was terrible. So on this one, pretty much everything we need is on the desktop. What we're going to be using is this right here. And hopefully it'll detect. Yes. All right. It's got my USB drive in there, which is right here. So there are different things that you can look at out here. If you wanna know the kind of the different things, this Caja here, this is your file browser. You can see stuff here. If you click down here, you'll have your different lists. There's a forensic tools section that has a bunch of different things in there. But some of the ones that are the most commonly used, of course, are Giemiger, because creating forensic images, which I've talked about a lot, is a huge thing. So all you have to do on this one is you should have all your little drives that show and your little, what do you call it? USB hard drive, whatever. The easiest way I found it was I looked for the model and the size. Let me blow this up a little. It's too big. Hold on. So you'll see out here on the right, there are some other issues or some other things out there you can see, like progress, and you won't see that really kick in until you're starting to make the stuff. So there are two options here. There's called an acquire image, which is what we're going to do. And then there's what's called the clone device. Don't need to do that. But sometimes when you're working with forensic images, you'll need to do that. Now, the way this is set up is actually pretty cool. We're going to do what's called the expert witness format, not the raw image. We're going to go ahead and make up a case number, whatever you wanted to make it up to be. Let's say, because we're in CSEC. Oh, I forgot it kills me. we'll just say, this is CSEC 257. This will be our first one, okay? Right, so now remember what I said about how your evidence numbers, your item numbers are unique. This is why they have all these different lines. So we're going to say this is evidence number 1. You don't have to do all this. I'm just trying to give you a practical example. Now, I did create, because I'm using the live version, it killed those because I'm saving it in here, but you can create a share file that you can put this onto your hard drive. But for tonight's exercise, we're not going to mess with any of that. So all we want to do for tonight is create a new folder. I'm going to call it evidence. I'm going to choose that. And then we're going to do our file name. So this is, let's see. And then if you look down here, you can do hash calculations. I'm just going to do MD5 because the higher you have on these, the longer it'll take. If you do reread source after acquisition, that'll take longer. I usually check verify image after acquisition. We're going to uncheck that just because I'm doing this as an example for you guys. So you can do what's called a duplicate image. A lot of times when you do a duplicate image, there are forensic labs, depending on their SOPs, they have a working image and an archive image. And you do this at this point so that you have, it's just kind of like when you do a save point on a virtual machine so that you can go, whoops, and you have something that you can roll back to. If you make an archive image and then a working image, you work on the working image. And if you have to go back and clone the archive image because something went wrong, then that's less times that you have to mess with the actual piece of evidence. Instead of having to get out your physical evidence and put it in and take another, you're actually just going to go copy your archive image. So that's why you get those duplicate images. Okay, does that make sense to everybody so far? As much as possible. Yep. That's why a lot of times they make a big server that is got all sorts of, that's why a lot of times those forensic stations that you see that are super expensive, they have like massive amounts of storage space. Well, some of them do that just for the pure purpose of their duplicates. Some of them have networked NASs, network access storage systems, all sorts of things. So, you never know exactly, depending on what they're doing. They should, if a lot of times the places think of those like chain of custody and documentation, and you have to keep them for those archive images, you have to keep them for a set amount of time. So you have to keep them untouched for possibly years, and they have to be backed up. And, because what happens if this case goes on for a couple of years, right? And you need to make sure that this keeps is safe and is untouched, and because you might have to go in and do that. It is hard, yeah. So you have to think about things like that too. Okay, so that's where we are. You can do other things with this. You can see all the different ones here, but that's what we're going to do right now. So we're going to hit start. Now you can see the state has changed to running. You'll see the progress over here. And It takes a minute, but you should get an average and time remaining. Mine didn't really do much on that probably because it's not a huge, there we go. Now it's actually doing it. But you can see, even for a thumb drive, it takes a little bit of time. Now think about this. This is just an itty bitty little 4 gig drive, which to us, a 4 gig drive is pretty small. Think about doing this with a 2 terabyte hard drive and then having to do a duplicate. So it can last quite, yeah. And then you have the possible double and quadruple time with those 2 check boxes. And then you have the raw files. There are possible lots of different ways that you can do that. This is why a lot of times when you're doing things like this, forensics takes significantly longer. Exactly. This is why a lot of times forensic evidence specialists have more than one station. They have one where they do stuff like this, and then they have one where they do examinations. So, okay. Does this make sense? So this is how you create a forensic copy using Geimager, the imaging thingy. And like I said, you can use Kane. I'm just using Kane because all this stuff's already built in and I don't have to look for all the different processes. It is altogether possible that you'll break it. And what I want for your assignment, you see this window here? When it's done, you'll look out there and it'll say that it's done, and then it'll say 100%. And I want you to take a nice snip of that. And yes, mine's out there, but mine shows my serial number and information. So don't just copy mine or else I will give you a 0. So keep that in mind. Now, while this is running, do you have some questions on some of the forensic tools? Technically, yes, you can, are you talking about the different hard drives on the side that are listed? Yeah, so everything that's on here, you can technically take an image of. You just need to be aware that those VBox ones, that's your virtual box. So taking a image of your virtual box on your virtual box is probably not a good idea because it will eat your space up if you don't give yourself enough room. Yeah, exactly. So if you have other hard drives and things that are added on there, and you can use Kane on other like vCenter and other things like that. Also, I think Parrot might have some of these built in because there's a big old thank you to the security admins for Parrot security. So it's possible that some of these tools are already out on Parrot. So if you have Parrot already, look for the tools that I've got out here. And if you like Parrot and you don't want to have to use Kane. Yeah, right. I know. The only reason I have you can do as small as you want. I highly suggest that you go as small as possible, Mike, because the smaller the file size, the less time it's going to take. So if you have one that's like a 1 gig or smaller, go for it. I don't know if you have an external hard drive, you can do that. If you have a really small internal hard drive, I just ended up buying a whole thing of like itty bitty ones because my parents, they don't have a printer at their house. And a lot of times they'll want to print off like massive documents. And they figured out that if they have me save them in PDFs, they can just go over to Kinko's and make some poor schlub print all their stuff out for them. So I have a whole collection of them for that, or CDs. Yeah, if you have CDs or DVDs, you can do those too.
Well, they were talking about doing a thicker CD where you can put petabytes on it. They were talking about using AI to start making those to put like all ChatGPT in one disc.
That'd
So
be
that's what they were
interesting to see how that turns out.
Yeah, I was watching a video. They're explaining it's going to be like a thicker disc with multiple layers using I forgot what the material was, but they shoot the laser through the material, and so it's like stacking on top
Well,
of a.
that makes sense, but I'm curious to see how the technology works. It's always fun to see what the new iterations are going to be.
I think they were just gonna make like as it becomes thicker, they're just gonna use like either infrared lights or just some form of light to just stack it all together so it just reads the data as it's written through.
Yeah. Okay, while this is doing that, I'm going to show you some, I'm not going to open them because I don't want it to be like, look, it's not going to work. But there's a few things that we've used before on here. There's an old version of Autopsy. As you can see, it literally says old Linux Autopsy on it. And you have, let's see here. Quick hash, which is some stuff you can work with on that. And then they have off crack, which is a password cracker. There's all sorts of little mounters. There's the Stego suite. That's another steganography tool. Digests and checksums. Let's see. Because this is the new one from what I've seen, so there's some newer stuff on here too. Move my toolbar so I can actually see. Let's see, RegRipper, I think, is the registry. Yeah, these are registry analysis tools that you can use. PhotoRec. Let's see. You can see there's a ton of work that you have to do with disks. So you can see there's all sorts of unblock, copies, different ones for mounting and unmounting disks. Quick hash, that's your hash file texts or disks. This is to check computer message digests and checksums. PDF scanner. I think that one you just, yeah, you analyze PDFs to see what's in them, what's actually in them. This one's a static malware analysis, and they have different things like that. The memory and forensic stuff, memdump, is actually really interesting. And I've used memdump to check memory before just to see if it's functional. So there's also that. These are some of the interesting ones. There are also like mobile forensics tools. This one's an MTP client for MP3 players. This one's iOS dev scripts. This one's an Android debugger bridge, if there's anyone still using Blackberries. This one's an iCloud backup extractor. Android phone. Basically, it'll put it up for you. And this one is a software utility. It says a collection of forensic tools that are specifically for Android. I know there's new Blackberries, but I just don't I don't see them very often. There might be some in there for those. You need a hammer, you can crack it. Yeah, you could. I don't imagine you'll get anything else off there if you try to do that, though. Your network forensics, there's your Wireshark. Harvester, I think is yeah, this is one of the ones where you go out and get emails, subdomains and harvests. These are for like pulling information out of websites and things like this. The timeline ones can be really interesting. I enjoy the timeline stuff that you get off of Autopsy, but I think that one's a lot more fun off of Autopsy because it shows all sorts of stuff on there for you. Well, we're at 72%. Timeline, it basically it gives you like a full date of like it shows you things that when they were created on the hard drive. We'll have to go look for some videos, or when we open up our NIST case file, you'll be able to see it a little bit easier. Exactly. Yeah. I'm just looking to see what all they've added in here since I've last used it. I don't know. They've got stuff for SSH stopper and starter. Zulu crypt. Now these can be really interesting where they have disk usage analyzers. Fred, where did you see that? Was it under forensic tools? Now I have to go back through. Fred. It's a registry hive editor. Yeah, people name these the weirdest things, but like recall. This one's find documents by specifying search terms. It's just basically a beefed up search option. Yeah, I know they didn't used to have that nice little thing on there. It was just like, good luck, click on it and see what happens. So that is much nicer that they have that on there. View and analyze scientific images. That's a new one. An old telnet service, which, yeah, sometimes you can use that. Here's your generic disk image mounter and writer. It's like they've got a couple of different file managers. And there's lots of different, because you do a lot of things with files, disk imaging, you'll see lots of different image mounting, unmounting options. They don't have that one on there. Yeah. Okay, we're almost done. At 97%. Feel like I need hold music. Okay. So this is what you need to take a picture of. Nice little green finished light and the 100%, okay? How big is your file? Jeff? 4.1. And it's just sitting there at 8? Let it, yeah, let it sit there and chug along for a little bit. My computer has a significant amount of memory compared to most laptops. So it could be that it's just taking significantly longer. Let me open up Kaha. There we go. Let's see where it actually put it. Okay, I'm not blind. Is anyone else seeing a folder that says evidence? Because I am not. All right, well,
I think you put the folder in the root directory and that was in your home directory.
yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I think I hid it somewhere.
Try clicking root up in the not top left, but yeah, we're up there.
No. Mm-mm. Okay, now I'm clearly seeing bin boot. Yeah, no, you don't have to do it right now while you're doing it. This is just to walk you through it. And as you can see, there are always fun ones that where it might hide it in certain things. No? It's been good. Where have they been? Okay, there we go. Okay. So there's that, and then you can use what do you call it? Let me just minimize that. Let's see if it crashes. And I'll give you a little bonus here. If it'll run. There we go. Start a new case. See, now the nice thing about the Windows version, because Windows version has things you can click on. So I don't have to. Let's see. Oops. Image one dot. Yeah. Okay, so yeah, this is not going to be happy with me. This is why I don't like the old version of Autopsy. The new version has, they don't have any of the newer ones, do they? No, why would they have the new ones? The new version, that's just a GUI. And it might be E1. It is Z01. I wonder if it's case sensitive. Yeah, it's much better. This one's a very old version. Yep, it's just going to give me the finger. Okay, so, well, we can't show you that. That's okay. It's a very, very old version anyway. Basically, you just open up those types of files that we just created, and then you can use them in Autopsy. And that is the whole point of copies like things like Geiger. There are also, let me stop share here, options like if you go in to FTK Imager, this one is a Windows imaging tool that you can use, and we'll show you how to use that one at a later time. But that is that one as well. So anyway, that is how you use Gimager. And that is it for tonight for our Play with Some Forensics Tools class. Does anyone have any questions before I stop the lecture portion and talk to you about some of the homework? Nope. Okay, I will stop the recording here.